Cass, how did you find Carnivore?
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me. Love your work. Um, it was a bit of a natural progression from starting keto. Uh, Takes me back to 2018. I'd had a change of lifestyle, I guess, in general, had gone back to uni, wanted a change of job role, um, studying in the medical field. I was in my second year of uni. And I was just going through some medical stuff, female medical stuff, let's just say that. And I was dealing with it for about 6 months and went to the doctor. His response to me was, "Oh, I think this is just something that you're going through, and I think everything's going to be okay and you'll get through this." And I went, "Well, that's kind of not good enough for me." So, had tried everything that, the chemist had suggested, essentially, um, and nothing was working. The issue was leaving, and then it was coming back, and it was leaving, and it was coming back. And, you know, that's you can't deal with that as a woman. And any woman probably knows what I'm talking about without actually saying the words out loud. Anyway, so I got home, did a bit of research, had heard of keto, and had heard of how candida is very much, um, can be resolved through gut changes. So, yeah, did a bit of research, had heard of keto, had heard of macros, and went, okay, I think I need to dive into this. At the time, my diet was, it's just your standard Australian diet. So I probably tried to avoid sweets where I could, but, would just drink whatever I wanted, ate pretty much whatever I wanted. I wasn't a big person. I'm probably, maybe like 5 or 10 kilos bigger than I am now. Um, but it was just those medical issues that were really, really grating on me. Um, the other point to add, I was obviously at uni, as I said, and was suffering with a lot of anxiety as well. Anytime I sat down to kind of work on an assignment or an essay, I was just overwhelmed with really bad anxiety to the point where just the even thought of having to sit down and focus on bashing an assignment out was, deliberating for me. I couldn't do it. So it took me a long time to get through that year. But anyway, started keto. I think I started the way most people probably start, dirty keto, modifying normal, recipes, to get into that. Um, so I did that for probably a couple of months. All those medical issues cleared up, the anxiety cleared up, and then found that, doing all these recipes, I was like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. It was too much. I'm like, I can't keep trying to cook these recipes. So, along the way, had found Low Carb Down Under, brilliant resource, and it really just progressed from there. So all those recipes kind of just dropped off along the way, and I just found myself eating more of a heavily based meat diet as time went by. And it probably took me a couple of months to get there, but yeah, very much eggs, meat, and would do being living in Australia. We have great salami and ham and stuff like that. So all of those things made it to my plate, and it was great. And I lost probably 16, 17 kilos along the way, and was living a great life. And I was very, very strict carnivore essentially for probably about 4 years. Um, and then, unfortunately, fell off the wagon. Was off the wagon for about, I'm going to say, the better part of 2 years. And I've recently jumped back on the wagon, probably about 6 weeks ago now. And I know that falling off the wagon was probably the worst thing I could have done for myself, because it's medically the past 2 years of my life and weight wise have probably been the worst that I've felt in a very long time. I'm older now, 46. And, I noticed well, as I said, about 6 weeks ago. Jumped out of bed one morning and I went, oh God, my feet are really swollen. And, living in Brisbane, it's very humid up here sometimes. And that does happen. But I'm like, I haven't had swollen feet like that literally since I was pregnant, 12 years ago. So feet were swollen and just started to notice some really achy joint pains in my fingers as well. And I went, oh, this is not good. So that was it. Basically, made an instant decision right there that it was time to change the diet. And basically, that afternoon just went, right, that's it. The carbs are gone. And we're back on carnivore.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah.
Um, and so have those things started to clear up over the last 6 weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers, haven't had any pains in my joints, in my fingers at all. Um, and the feet swelling for the most part, yeah. Do occasionally notice if I've been at work, like my job is very heavy walking on my feet. If it's been a really hot, humid day, I'll find that they feel a little bit tight toward the end of the day, but nothing, certainly not jumping out of bed in the morning and having swollen feet. No, completely gone. So, yeah. Um, and like 6 kilos of weight literally just dropped off me. So,
Wow,
and
that's a lot for 6 weeks.
that was a lot for 6 weeks, yeah, which made me think that it was just a lot of fluid overload, um, which makes sense having swollen feet too, right? So, yeah, and I mean that's not my focus. My focus now is not my weight. Um, whilst it's great to experience that, feeling good and actually being able to get through a day without pain is what is really the most important thing for me at the moment. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's interesting to look at the kind of the shorter period relative to, like, you've done 4 years of carnivore, then you had a 2-year break,
Yeah.
and then looking at this short period, like, some of the things, have you seen improvements already with sleep and energy, stuff like that?
Oh, yes, 100%. So, I was, as I said, I'm 46, kind of coming into that perimenopause phase in my life, I guess, and had been consistently probably waking up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, probably for the past 6 months, I reckon. So sleep had not been great, but that has definitely changed. It's not perfect at the moment, but I work shift work, so you know that is going to play a factor too. But yes, it's definitely been a lot better. Have definitely had more energy. I would come home from work and not be able to do anything because I was just so tired, and be going to bed at 9 o'clock at night, but might sleep for an hour, wake up, go back to sleep, and wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and go, oh my God, I'm awake again. And I've got to be up at 5 o'clock to get back to work. So, um, yes, that has eased off a lot. I do occasionally still find that, yes, I am still waking up, but nowhere near as much as what it had been. It had been religiously every single day. So, yeah, definitely see some sleep improvement. And my skin has cleared up incredibly. And so fast. I mean, not that I had bad skin to begin with, but I can see the difference.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, over the last couple of decades, I've
Mm,
been on and off keto. Like, I'd go on it, I'd lose weight, I'd feel better and that kind of thing, and then I'd get lazy and I'd have the ice cream and then I'd have more ice cream and so that's happened over 2 decades, and whenever I've gone back to keto or eventually to carnivore, every time I've done it, my body's kind of said to me, "Okay, we're back on track. Thank you. You're giving me what I need. This is right. I'm feeling better. Stop falling off the wagon, you numbskull.
yeah.
Just keep going." Do you kind of feel in the last 6 weeks your body's responding that way?
Oh, 100%. You know, I remember the first time. I was eating this way. And I had a lot of, there was a lot of pushback from a lot of people. I mean, I did lose quite a significant amount of weight. And even though, and I did find it hard to really keep my protein and my fats up because you just don't feel hungry sometimes and you just literally forget to eat. And you get home and you're like, you can only stomach so much food at any given point in time, right? So, I did get a lot of pushback. You are too thin. And I was thin. But I was not unhealthy. And I certainly didn't not eat because I, I ate. I ate what I knew my body needed at the time. And you know how they talk about athletes, those fast twitch muscles and slow twitch muscles. I find it very hard to bulk up. Like it just, it's something that I've struggled with my whole life, and it it doesn't happen. So, I knew I was always going to look lean. It was going to look like that. I was never going to be able to put the bulk on, even if I hit the gym. Um, so, there was a lot of pushback. But I said, I'm not unhealthy. I said, I eat, I still got those womanly cycles every month. My blood pressure was fantastic. I never got sick. Um, COVID was not a thing in our house until probably 2 years later. Um, but yes, since I dropped off the bandwagon, a few of those things have changed. And getting back on though, it's a complete 180 turnaround. And I know now that, and I know that there are people who say, this diet is not for everybody, and maybe it's not, but I know for me that this way of eating is where my body functions best and where my headspace is at its best. Suffering through anxiety and depression is a huge thing as well. And I could not believe how quickly when I started keto the first time, or carnivore, which is where I ended up, those clouds lifted within a month. And I could not believe it. And just the clarity, the thought clarity, going to work in the past couple of weeks, it's been a different experience because I actually feel like, I'm clear headed. I don't need to be running back, checking what I'm doing, what's next. It just stays. So, yeah. And now I'm here again. And, I go to myself, why did I ever stop? There was a lot going on at the time. We moved into state, big life changes. And I think that those are the hardest things to deal with when you're eating this way because, you know, when you're traveling, it's really difficult. And I can appreciate there are so many people that come on your channel and are able to talk about how they get through that when they're traveling. But it can be hard. And for me, it was just too much. Change a job, change a state, moving 3 children. We had to settle, and then even more changes after that. But now I'm like, no, this is it. This is where I will stay. And I'm trying to get my family members to join me, but reluctantly, unfortunately.
Right.
For,
Yeah.
for now, reluctantly for now. That may change. I hope.
Mm. Well, yeah, I mean, that's it. You can only talk about the benefits, and then they've basically got to they can observe how you're improving and eventually come to their own kind of decision,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I need to give this a try.
Yeah. Well, I've got 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. Um, my eldest son, he's 16, and loves the gym, and is very much into the meat, 3 veg, and still lets those sweets creep in. And I'm like, okay, well, you don't actually need to be eating that stuff. You don't need to be eating the lollies and the ice cream, and you don't even really need to be eating the vegetables if you don't want to. You can give that up. You can go all meat. And he does like his meat, so I think he will be the one that I could, you know, get on the bandwagon. Um, and my younger daughter, she's 12, and she dances quite a lot. And she's wanting to build muscle, and I'm like, you got to eat more meat. You have to eat more meat. I said, and lay off the sweets, the lollipops. Like I said, you don't need to be eating that sugar. Have some more meat. And she will come to me when sees what I'm eating. She'll come to me and say, "Oh, can I try a bit of that? Can I have some of that meat? That looks really good. Let me have some." So, I'll obviously, serve her up a plate as well. And I'm like, well, if you ate like this, every day and didn't eat the rubbish that you want to eat, which I mean, I know being a parent, you're going to get the pushback of, well, you're the parent, so you should be deciding what the kids eat. But unfortunately, it's
It's
not
hard
always
once they get
like
to a
this
certain
around.
age.
You have to
Mm.
pick your battles, right? Um, so sometimes just being fed is best for them sometimes, especially when you're in a time poor house. But I'm hoping that we can kind of get to that point, or at least maybe to the keto point would be good. As a starting point for young kids, um, because the benefits are there. Trying to push my husband that way too.
Yeah, the important thing for the kids is like at least it's in the back of their mind as a tool they can use if they ever feel the need to, right?
Right, exactly. My daughter, she suffers with a bit of eczema at the base of her skull. Um, I think a lot of it is through because she dances so much, and she's constantly using hairspray gel to try and get her hair to where it needs to be. I think that is part of the aggravation, but I have tried to explain to her that part of this actually could be from your diet and what you're eating, and if you laid off your sugary sweets, that that may change. So, but unfortunately, I've got other people around that will take her out and let her buy those things. So, and I'm like, well, you're 12. It's up to you too. I can't stop you eating all that type of stuff completely. Um, but it's up to you. How much do you want to put up with that? Because it could change. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But they know, and they see what I'm doing, they see what I'm eating, they see where I was, a couple of years ago at my height of that really great diet as well. Um, and then they have seen the change since then, since not eating that way. Um, so I'm hoping that it's something that they will eventually come around to as well. Um, and my husband, he's going through some cancer stuff at the moment. He got diagnosed at the beginning of the year with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Um, very, very early diagnosis. And went off to the hematologist with him. And I said to the hematologist, actually, much to my surprise, um, what are your thoughts on the keto diet? I wasn't doing keto or carnivore at the time. I suppose this is one of the stresses that added to that very poor eating. Not that that's an excuse. Um, and to my surprise, he said, yeah, go for it. Do what you have to do. And I was like, wow. And he did not look like the most healthiest of doctors either. So I was like, well, you know, you should try it too. But I didn't say that to him. I wanted to say that to him. But anyway, um, but, my husband he's not been very receptive. He is seeing a dietitian through his work and has just made some dietary changes. But I'm like, you do know if you just do carnivore, like he loves meat. I'm like, you do know if you just do carnivore, it's actually just going to be so much easier. But there are things that in his life that I feel like he's not ready to part with yet. He might get there in time. He has seen some good changes in this dietary change, which to me, I'm like, well, maybe this is the start. Let's start here and then see how we can move forward from there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you personally, what is your eating pattern like during the day, and is that affected by your shift work?
Mm. Well, I have to try and be really organized, especially when I'm leaving the house. Because, where I am, I do work in a hospital, and, you know, we don't have a lot around, there's not a lot around me at disposal. So you've got, I think as far as fast food stuff, you've got Subway, and then there's Zambero's, which is like Mexican. Now, I can go there and get meatballs, and I can go to Zambero's and just get beef, right? Um, and on the pinch, I will do that if I have to, but I prefer just to take my, um, well, I think like in America they call it ground beef, right? But we call it mince meat. So, I'll make up a kilo of mince meat, and if my shifts tend to be a block here, a block there, so I can at least make up a kilo of mince and just take that with me. Um, that'll last me a couple of days, and I'll just eat that. And then when I get home, often I'll say to my husband, I'll give my husband a call, and like, I'm 10 minutes away. Can you just throw a steak on for me? Um, and he'll cook me a steak, and I'll just have that when I get home. Now I do a bit of dairy. I do a bit of cheese. I do love my coffee, but I drink. Oh, look, I'm really bad. I do drink instant coffee because I just don't have the time to be making those other drinks. So I do a bit of full cream cow's milk in that as well. So, those are my vices. But, if I'm at work and I need to just get something in my stomach, so I will eat when I'm hungry. And quite often, like, I do have a more senior role at work. So quite often, I'm a team leader. So it's very difficult to try and get away to get those breaks. But if I can just shove a piece of cheese in my mouth just to get me through, another hour, I'll do that. So quite often we'll just, take a block of cheese with me to throw in the fridge and leave it there. So I know that there's that I can pull back on. But yep, meat. I do eggs occasionally. It's one of the things that I kind of cycle through and back again. I tend to get a bit sick of them, and I think that's probably just because I'm too lazy to really, get experimental with them, and I don't know, make them nice. I don't know, cook them up with some ham and bacon or something. That would be good, but I'm just too lazy to do that, quite frankly. And it's probably more about being time poor too. So it's much easier just to throw some mince in the pot. I usually throw some bone broth in it, cook that up, and yeah, that's it. And then I'll cook my steak when I need it. I like chicken. I don't eat seafood purely because I just don't like it. Um, you know, I grew up in Melbourne, so seafood to me is like fish and chips, bit of flake from the fish and chip shop. Can't get good flake in Brisbane. So, occasionally if I'm out somewhere and I can see that they've got, some flake, maybe I'll get that grilled, but not very often.
No prawns and scallops for you.
Oh no, God no. I grew up in a household that loves that type of stuff, but no, thank you, not for me. No, tuna. I'll do tuna. Tuna. I'll do. I will like mix a little bit of mayonnaise with it, maybe just for a bit of something different. As I said, so I'm not a purist, I guess you could say. But if it ever come to the point where what I was doing wasn't working and I needed to cut those things out, then I would do that, and I
Yeah,
would 100%. But at the moment, for me, where I am, this is okay, and I'm happy with
yeah.
that. Hmm.
So,
So,
one of the things about the break that you've had
hmm.
is during that break, did you find that at work you had more kind of more just speaking from experience, like when I was eating a normal diet, I would find myself often getting kind of like hypoglycemic episodes or something, or like I'd be at work and I'd just like be unable to concentrate because I'm thinking about what's the next thing I'm going to eat.
Yeah.
During that 2-year period, was it a little bit like that?
Oh, yeah. So, well, I've got to get my break because I've got to have something to eat. And just a bit of brain fog really. Is probably the real thing that I noticed the most. Just not functioning at peak efficiency is what is kind of where I'd put it. Knowing how things have been previously and how good they've been and the difference that I've seen. Um, and I mean, I've had periods of time throughout that 2 years where I have kind of been back on the bandwagon. So it's been a bit of in and out, but for the most, it's been out. And definitely the yeah, I noticed that pretty quickly. The change. I think I probably notice it more being on because you just function so much better, or I feel like I do. Whereas not, I guess it's like, oh well, this is just that's normal for everybody else, right? And that's normal for the previous 40 years in my life when I was not eating this way. Um, but, you know, I guess it feels so good when you are eating carnivore or keto or whatever division of that diet you choose to eat and whatever's going to work for you, right? Um, and it's almost like, I don't know, I guess euphoric is not the right word, but, it's like, wow, this is, you know, you want to feel like that. You want to feel that way because it feels really good, you know, and you feel
Yeah,
like achieving. That's how I feel. Like I just feel like I
yeah.
get so much more done, and I'm not having to think about things quite as much and go, oh, what was that? What was I doing? What do I have to do next? Because it's just there. You just remember. And my
Wh-
memory improves so much more.
Why did I walk into this room?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what that woman wanted. That bell's going, oh yeah, that's right. That's what she needed, or she'll be ringing for that, right? No, just yeah, the memory is a huge thing. Um, but yeah, the brain fog just seems to lift, and everything just gets a bit more clear, I guess.
Has anyone commented at work on how come you're only eating meat when you're at work?
Yeah, I was actually having this conversation with somebody if not so long ago, actually, probably last week. Um, Somebody had said, "Oh, you've lost a bit of weight. What are you doing?" And I went, "Well, doing carnivore." And they're like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm basically just eat meat." And they're like, "Oh, well, I'm doing a diet too, and I'm doing the Mediterranean diet. You should try that." And I'm like, "Oh," I went, "Well, yeah." I went, "That's great. I'm glad that you've found something that's working for you." I said, "But I said I've been there before, and I've tried those diets, and for me, they don't tend to work very well." Um, I said because I just have a bit of trouble. I have a bit of trouble moderating, really, like, and having too many. You know what it is for me? I think it's like too many choices. It's too many choices. I don't want to have to think about cooking up a meal that's got 10 ingredients in it. Like, I can't, it's too much. I can't do that. So I'm like, you know what I'm doing, I don't have to think about it. I know that it's going to be the choice of maybe 5 different things. So there's some mince in my fridge or freezer, and there's a couple of steaks, and I've got eggs, and I've probably got some salami. And, do I need to throw some cheese in there? Maybe. And it's easy. And if I feel like maybe some chicken, even chicken, I tend to not kind of gear toward because I'm like, oh, it's too much hard work. Like, it's actually much easier to cook up a steak and red meat than it is to cook up chicken, in my eyes, anyway.
Yeah, the thing about chicken versus red meat, I've never once in my life looked at a steak and thought, "Oh, is that cooked enough?
Yeah,
I'm a bit
exactly.
worried about." That's every time I cook chicken, I'm worried
Yeah,
about it.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, oh, I mean, I like my steak a bit kind of on the medium side. But if it's a bit overcooked, it's okay. I'll just eat it. If it's a bit undercooked, oh, it's okay. I'll just eat it. I wouldn't say that with chicken. Like, I'm never gonna, if I was cooking chicken, there's no way that it's gonna be undercooked chicken. That's not gonna happen. Maybe, I mean, you live in Japan, right? So that's a thing. Have you ever
Yeah,
had it?
I've had raw chicken here.
Yeah.
Um, it's like kind of first time and last time, but
And it's not a thing here, right? Anyway, yeah, no, it's actually a lot more work, and I feel like there's a lot more preparation that has to go into it too, because you want to cut off those sinewy bits because they're not nice to eat. Whereas if it's in a steaker, it doesn't really matter. Um, yeah,
yeah.
and it
Um,
just gets up a bit dry and tough sometimes for my liking. So I'm like, eh.
hmm. So, Cass, if you were giving a friend advice about starting carnivore, let's say they come to you and say, "Okay, I'm willing to try 90 days. I see how well you've done after just being back on it a few weeks. I'm willing to try 90 days. Tell
Yeah.
me what I should do." What advice or tips would you give them based on your experience?
Well, I think it depends on a few things. Um, you know, what's their personality like? Are they the type of person that can just jump in whole hog and they're fine, like they'll just get on with it and do what they need to do? That's kind of the type of person I am, but not everybody's like that. So if they're the type of person that is like, oh, it's going to take a bit of time, so it depends on the approach that they want to take. If they are an all-in person, I would be going, okay, so you just need to go and if you can clear out your pantry of all those things that are going to tempt you, what's your willpower like? Is it going to bother you that they're sitting in there? If they are, get rid of them. And if that's you, then maybe you're the I need to enter slowly type person, right? And if you're an need to enter slowly type person, I would be starting with okay, well, you absolutely need to get rid of anything dessert like needs to go first off. Stop eating that. Stop eating your pasta. Stop eating your potatoes. Stop eating your high starchy vegetables. Get rid of them tonight. Maybe do 2 days of that and then drop down. Get rid of the rest of your vegetables and start eating just your meats. So go a slow approach, but within a couple of days. You're not, well, it's not like week. Don't do it over a week and then drop a bit more in a week. You've got to do it, I think, pretty quick, really, if you really want to make that change. Or you go in whole hog. So what are you going to be doing? Just stop. Don't put those potatoes on your plate. Don't put the veggies on your plate. Don't put your pasta on your plate. If you have to have your herbs and spices, all right, do that. If you have to have a little bit of sauce, okay, do that. But can you change it for something else? Put a bit of mayo there. And I think be prepared for, big thing for me was the cramping. Cramping was huge. Muscular cramps was a big thing. So, you need to get your magnesium. Get in some magnesium, even if you just get the topical magnesium. I think magnesium is actually better absorbed through the skin anyway than in what it is through the gut. But, you might need to supplement. You're probably going to need to have some salt um, because keto flu, and it is a thing. I didn't experience it this time, but, well, not really. I had a headache for one day. But the first time I did, I went into keto, those 4 years ago, 6 years ago, whenever it was, it was bad. And I chose the day that it chose to hit me was when I was driving from Adelaide to Melbourne in the middle of a storm, no less, with three children in the back seat by myself. That was fun. And I was just like, I just have to get to Melbourne and I just have to get to a pharmacist and I just need some salt. And once I had my salt, I was fine. I felt so much better. So salt, you'll need to have some salt. Salt, water, magnesium. That's what you need to add in.
Right. Yeah. So Cass, if people want to reach out to you, do you have any social media or any way of getting in contact?
Uh, you can pop my email down, Dave. I'm not on YouTube or anything like that. My email's there if anybody wants to reach out. Um, happy to offer some advice on things that have worked, or go into deeper as to why I started.
No worries. I'll put your email in the show notes.
Hmm.
Cass, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Dave.